made probably the largest marketing blunder of my career by announcing the Macintosh Office instead of just desktop publishing. And we had desktop publishing as a major component of that, but we announced a bunch of other stuff as well, and I think we should have just focused on desktop publishing at that time.
After serious disagreements with Apple's CEO John Sculley, Steve left the company in 1985.
Tell us about your departure from Apple.
Oh, it was very painful. I'm not even sure I want to talk about it. What can I say? I hired the wrong guy.
That was Sculley?
Yeah. And he destroyed everything I'd spent 10 years working for. Starting with me, but that wasn't the saddest part. I would have gladly left Apple if Apple would have turned out like I'd wanted it to. He basically got on a rocket ship that was about to leave the pad, and the rocket ship left the pad, and it kind of went to his head. He got confused and thought that he built the rocket ship. And then he kind of sort of changed the trajectory so that it was inevitably going to crash into the ground.
Well, it was always in the pre-Macintosh days and the early Macintosh days, it was always the Steve and John show. You know, you two were kind of joined at the hip for a while there. And then something happened to split you. What was that?
That's correct.
What was that
catalyst? What happened was that the industry went into a recession in late 1984. Sales started seriously contracting. And John didn't know what to do. He had not a clue. And there was a leadership vacuum at the top of Apple. There were fairly strong general managers running the divisions. I was running the Macintosh division. Somebody else was running the Apple II division, etc. There were some problems with some of the divisions. There was a person running the storage division that was completely out to lunch, and a bunch of things that needed to be changed. But all of those problems got put in a pressure cooker because of this contraction in the marketplace. And there was no leadership. And John was in a situation where the board was not happy and where he was probably not long for the company. And one thing I did not ever see about John until that time was he had an incredible survival instinct. Somebody once told me this guy didn't get to be this, the president of PepsiCo without these kinds of instincts, and it was true. And John decided that a really good person to be the root of all these problems would be me, and so we came to loggerheads. And John had cultivated a very close relationship with the board, and they believed him. So that's what happened.
So there were competing visions for the company.
Oh, clearly.
And
well, not so much competing visions for the company, because I don't think John had a vision for the company.
Well, I guess I'm asking, what was your vision that lost out in this instance?
It wasn't an issue of vision. It was an issue of execution, in the sense that my belief was that Apple needed much stronger leadership to sort of unite these various factions that we created with the divisions, that the Macintosh was the future of Apple, that we needed to rein back expenses dramatically in the Apple II area, that we needed to be spending very heavily in the Macintosh area, things like that. And John's vision was that he should remain the CEO of the company, and anything that would help him do that would be acceptable. So I think that Apple was in a state of paralysis in the early part of 1985, and I wasn't at that time capable, I don't think, of running the company as a whole. I was 30 years old, and I don't think I had enough experience to run a $2 billion company. Unfortunately, John didn't either. And so anyway, I was told in no uncertain terms that there was no job for me. It was really, really tragic.
Siberia.
Yeah, it would have been far smarter for Apple to sort of, let me work on the next. I volunteered. I said, why don't I start a research division? And, give me a few $1,000,000 a year, and I'll go hire some really great people, and we'll do the next great thing. And I was told there was no opportunity to do that.
Oh, wow.
So, and my office was taken away. It was. I mean, I'll get real emotional if we keep talking about this. So anyway, but that's irrelevant. I'm just one person, and the company was a lot more people than me. So that's not the important part. The important part was the values of Apple, over the next several years were systematically destroyed.
I then asked Steve for his thoughts on the state of Apple. Remember, this was 1995, a year before he would go back to Apple. Remember, too, that when Apple bought Next a year after this interview, Steve immediately sold the Apple stock he received as part of the sale.
Apple's dying today. Apple's dying a very painful death. It's on a glide slope to die. And the reason is because, when I walked out the door at Apple, we had a 10-year lead on everybody else in the industry. Macintosh was 10 years ahead. We watched Microsoft take 10 years to catch up with it. Well, the reason that they could catch up with it was because Apple stood still. I mean, the Macintosh that's shipping today is like, 25% different than the day I left. They've spent hundreds of millions of dollars a year on R&D. I mean, a total of probably $5 billion on R&D. What did they get for it? I don't know. But it was what happened was the understanding of how to move these things forward and how to create these new products somehow evaporated. And I think a lot of the good people stuck around for a while, but there wasn't an opportunity to get together and do this because there wasn't any leadership to do that. So what's happened with Apple now is that they've fallen behind in many respects, certainly in market share. And most importantly, their differentiation has been eroded by Microsoft.